On Saturday, Russian troops conducted unsuccessful offensive actions on the Bakhmut and Avdiivka fronts. 7 attacks were repelled on the Marinka front. Source: Summary of the General Staff of the Armed Forces. Details: in total, during the day, the Russians carried out 10 airstrikes and about 30 attacks from multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of Ukrainian troops and populated areas. The probability of missile and air strikes throughout the territory of Ukraine remains high. The Russians continue to focus their main efforts on attempts to completely seize Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts. During this day, units of Ukrainian defense forces repelled 13 Russian attacks. On the Volyn and Polishcha fronts, the operational situation has not changed significantly, and no signs of formation of offensive groups have been detected. On the Severshchina and Slobozhenshchina fronts, the Russians carried out an airstrike in and around Vovchansk of Kharkiv Oblast, carried out mortar and artillery attacks on the settlements of Remyak in Chernihiv Oblast, Zarutsky, Alukiv, Bunyakine, Katerinivka, Obody, Myropilya in Sumy Oblast, as well as Basov, Buhavka, Poptivka, Lukiantsy, Zelin, Ternova, Staritsha, Ohertsev, Hatish, Vovchansk, Taik, Kotny in Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, the Russians carried out an airstrike in and around Kyslivka of Kharkiv Oblast. Kolodyazne, Krasny Persh, Fyholivka, Novomlinsk, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kyslivka and Berestov in Kharkiv Oblast were subjected to Russian artillery and mortar fire. During the day, the Russians did not conduct offensive operations on the Lyman front. Nevsky and Bilohorivka of Luhansk Oblast and Torsky, Verkhniokamyansk and Spern of Donetsk Oblast were subjected to artillery shelling. On the Bakhmut front, during the day, the Russians conducted unsuccessful offensive actions west of Kromu. Vashukivka, Privolya, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Hurahorivka, Bodanivka, Chasev Yar, Ivanovsky, Stupochki, Predtekine and Pivnikny of Donetsk Oblast were affected by Russian shelling. On the Avdiivka front, the Russians carried out offensive actions towards the settlements of Severn and Pervomaysk but were unsuccessful. They carried out artillery shelling on the settlements of Novokolinov, Avdiivka, Pervomaysk and Karlivka in Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukrainian defenders repelled 7 Russian attacks in the area of the city of Marinka. At the same time, Georgivka, Marinka and Pobeda of Donetsk Oblast came under Russian fire. On the Shakhtarsk front, the Russians shelled the settlements of Paraskoviivka, Novomikhailivka, Vuhledar, Novokranka, Prekostivka, Shakhtarsk, and Vlika Novosilka. The Russians continue to conduct defensive operations on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts. They carried out airstrikes on the areas of the settlements of Chervon of Zaporizhia Oblast and Zimivka of Kherson Oblast. They shelled the settlements of Vremivka, Vilnpol, and Novopil of Donetsk Oblast, Olhivsky, Poltavka, Huliaipol, Charivny, Novodanilivka, Novoandriivka, Bilahiria, Malotokmichka, Stepov and Kamyansk of Zaporizhia Oblast, Sadov, Antonivka, Kherson Oblast and the city of Kherson. In the temporarily occupied Luhansk, the Russian occupiers continue to adapt local medical facilities to their needs. Recently, additional beds and equipment were delivered to the railway hospital, where wounded invaders are treated. In addition, the occupiers handed over Maternity Hospital No. 2 to the Wagner Group. The Russian invaders cynically continue to carry out the illegal deportation of children from the temporarily occupied territories of Luhansk Oblast. In some settlements of the Shastcha district, the occupiers announced so-called recreation for schoolchildren in summer camps on the territory of the Russian Federation. During the day, the aircraft of the defense forces made 4 strikes on areas where Russian personnel and military equipment were concentrated, as well as 3 strikes on anti-aircraft missile systems. During the day, Ukrainian soldiers destroyed 3 Russian UAVs of different types. Units of rocket forces and artillery hit the area of concentration of weapons and military equipment, 2 control points, 2 ammunition storage points and another important military object of the occupiers. As of the morning of Tuesday, May 23, the Ukrainian military eliminated 480 Russian soldiers per day. The total number of losses of the Russian army since the beginning of the invasion is 204,360 soldiers. Besides, the armed forces destroyed a helicopter, 4 cruise missiles and 40 artillery systems. It was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. 25 combat clashes in 5 directions take place between defense forces of Ukraine and occupiers during day. Summary. The defense forces of Ukraine regularly arrange powerful bangs against the enemy in the temporarily occupied territories and the front line. Only in the past day, the Ukrainian aviation has struck 11 times on the areas of concentration of personnel and military equipment of the enemy. In connection with this, cases of non-fulfillment of commanders' orders and desertions have become more frequent in Russian troops. This is stated in the morning summary of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook on May 27. It is noted that the enemy continues to concentrate its main efforts in 5 directions of the front: Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka. In total, during the past day, 25 combat clashes took place on the specified areas of the front. During the past day, the enemy launched 20 missile strikes. Settlements in the Kyiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions came under fire. Also, 2 Russian anti-aircraft guided missiles hit the city of Avdiivka. In addition, the enemy carried out 68 airstrikes, in particular, used Iranian attack drones of the Shahed type on the cities of Marinka and Izium of the Kharkiv region, and also used guided aerial bombs on the city of Avdiivka and the village of New York. At the same time, it carried out about 89 shelling using MLRS at the positions of our troops and populated areas. Unfortunately, there are killed and wounded among the civilian population. A medical institution in the city of Dnipro, educational institutions in Izium and New York, residential apartment buildings and private buildings were damaged. Over the past day, the Air Force of the Defense Forces has carried out 11 strikes on areas where enemy personnel and military equipment are concentrated. Also, 5 enemy reconnaissance UAVs of the Orlan 10 type and 2 of the Zala type were destroyed. Missile troops and artillery units hit 3 control points, 3 areas of concentration of weapons and military equipment, 2 ammunition depots, 2 artillery units in firing positions, 1 anti-aircraft defense system and 2 more important enemy targets. In the army of the occupier, cases of non-compliance with commanders' orders and desertions are becoming more and more frequent. In particular, on May 25, in the Svatov area of the Luhansk region, about 20 former prisoners, who recently underwent accelerated training and arrived to strengthen the unit, stole a KAMAZ vehicle and left in an unknown direction. At this time, their whereabouts have not been determined. The search is ongoing.